Nation, about a month or so ago, I recorded a video that expressed my fear, my sleeplessness, my worry about the potential of the death of physical music. Physical music, of course, being a representation of what it is being, what we use to listen to it, I guess the best way that I can put it is in this analogy. Now, of course, I'm wearing my work shirt. I do work at a music store for those new subscribers that may not know this. But originally, whenever we wanted music, we would go out and buy these. We'd buy vinyl records. This one, of course, Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits, a 80s classic. Then as time went on, there were 8 tracks, which I do own a few of. However, locating them at this period of time where I'm still unboxing things as well, I can't find any of them. But eventually we moved on to things such as this, I'm the Man by Anthrax, a cassette tape version of it that's actually pretty cool. Includes their cover of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which is really good. And then, of course, after the cassette tape, we moved on to these CDs, or in this case a CD-DVD pack, which comes in, it's together. I guess what I'm saying is I don't really want the future of music to just be based around this, or a tablet, or a phone. That was my worry. My worry wasn't just based around the fact that I myself might be out of a job, because, let's face it, music itself will never die. Music itself may decay, because it already has. The process has already started, at least in some genres. There's been plenty of decay that's out there, to the point where other genres and subgenres have risen up and kind of taken precedence. And there's certainly a focus right now on music that is not necessarily the most brainiac infused. Right now there is certainly a instinct in popular culture that music does not have to be complex, it doesn't have to have intricacy to it in order for it to be perceived as good. Now, is this more of a reflection on the music business itself, or is this more of a reflection on society? I actually find it to be a little bit of both. I think that the music business has kind of recognized that society as a whole has become more fast-paced and kind of needs a little bit more kind of executed more quickly in order to keep a public interest involved and public interest high for an artist. So there are that's one of the many reasons why I think rap artists release so many mixtapes, because it keeps their name out there. 20 seconds of fame is almost 20 seconds too long in this culture of ours, where there is one song that is huge one day, but it seems almost like the next day, well, there's another song that's big. Now, there have, of course, been a couple of tracks over the past few years that have broken through popular culture and really made a profound impact. Of course, artists such as Adele are definitely on the high side of that, but then at the same time, thanks to the internet and Facebook and the generation that really predominantly occupy it and populate it, we've seen the rise of songs such as Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe, Friday by Rebecca Black, and things such as that nature really escalate to the point of them becoming superstars based around one YouTube video. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not ragging on YouTube as a way to discover new music. I in fact think that YouTube is a splendid method in order to discover new artists. But that's kind of just what it should be. It should be all about discovering new artists. It shouldn't be your principal source of listening to their music. Now, this isn't going to be a huge rant about the digital downloading of music. I didn't hold this laptop computer up here kind of as a symbol of my formal boycott of such an endeavor, because as I've confessed to you guys on multiple occasions, one of the big reasons why I have such a wide array of music was because I definitely took advantage of that idea whenever I was in college, because I was poor. So a lot of you are probably looking at me right now like I'm a major hypocrite. But that's the thing. We all have to take our course a little bit differently, and we all kind of discover things about ourselves and discover the things that mean the most to us at our own pace. I always loved music. At one point in time, having music right then and there was the most important thing. I couldn't get enough of it. So instead of, robbing a bank, I robbed people that I shouldn't have robbed. Here's my thing, and here's my gripe. Here's the only thing about digital music that I'm going to really talk about right here, right now. And that's the fact that that shouldn't be the wave of the future. it shouldn't be the way in which we have to get our music. There should always be that zest to go out and physically own something. And I definitely see that out there. There are a lot of people that still have a high level of pride in having a physical music collection. And you guys in the Cover Killer Nation have certainly exhibited to me through the comments, through your video responses, and through the different messages and the like that I've received on the official Cover Killer Nation Facebook page on this topic, that you guys definitely love owning music. But we also know that that's not necessarily the only way in which people get it, and in some cases, digital copies are the only way that you can get it. Some uprising artists, this is the best way for them to market themselves. The underground has now become kind of more of a plethora of possibilities for a lot of people, as they've been able to distribute their albums very cheaply or for free to multiple people in order to try to get themselves discovered. So I guess what I'm saying is that maybe I was a little harsh whenever I issued my claim, but there's a couple things that I can't necessarily let up on. And that's the fact that some people have absolutely no tact. Some people make it very bold and apparent that, well, they have problems with the recording industry, and that's the reason why they're taking their business to the piracy open seas, so to speak. And I'm here to speak about that directly. I guess you could say that here's my entrance to my video. That's kind of the soft opening, so to speak, if this was a television show. And, well, here's the video itself. The video is, you shouldn't be ashamed to pay a certain amount of money for music. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. A lot of you are saying, well, a lot of that money is going to the record label. The band itself isn't really seeing very much of those profits. And you know what? You're absolutely right. But let me explain a little bit about the, I guess, business end of this whole thing. While the record industries are certainly still taking a whole lot of money from artists, well, you can't really blame them in this current economic climate. Whenever they were doing it, whenever we were in a surplus in the 1990s or even in the 1980s, yeah, then it was definitely a problem. There are many artists, whether they be popular or not, that have not only reported but made it very, very plain to individuals that they themselves got ripped off by their label. One that definitely comes to mind is TLC in the middle of the 1990s, who scored a smash hit with their song Waterfalls. Their album Crazy Sexy Cool went 10 times platinum, and you'd think that these people would be filthy stinking rich. Well, instead, one of them is tragically deceased, and the other two had to file for bankruptcy before they even considered writing a second album, which spawned another #1 hit with their song No Scrubs. So, that is a little bit of natural talent, but once again, that was just a really, really poor excuse of bad marketing, not to mention bad tact on the part of major corporations. However, on the side of the music stores, they're not the ones to blame for the prices being that way. Once again, I have to go back to one of my principal claims and principal banes and hatreds of all of society. And that's the fact that chain stores, with the biggest offender being Walmart, really destroying just about everything in its path. We here in the East Coast just got hit by Hurricane Sandy, but America has been hit by Hurricane Walmart, and it's also been happening in other countries all throughout the world. Almost as though Walmart is trying to conglomerize everything that this world has to offer. In fact, if this keeps up, in 20 years, Earth will no longer be known as Earth. Earth will be known as Walmart. These are stores that are able to buy things in surplus, so of course they're able to sell them at a cheaper price because their profit margins are not as narrow as those record stores or other local businesses that surround them. Since they buy in such wealth, they're able to sell in a larger fashion, considering they have larger warehouse styles to them, or those gigantic superstore environments. So they also don't have to worry about a large turnover of their product because it's eventually going to sell, because they're seeing such a high volume of customers. This is also true of music. Considering there are such a wealth of individuals that are going into these stores that are looking at other things, whether they be grocery items or home care items or clothing, whatever it may be, even tires and shit like that, of course they're also going to look at the music and entertainment department. And whenever you do that, they're seeing that these are bargain basement prices, mainly because these discs have been cheaply made in places such as Mexico and, well, only work half the time, but that's besides the point. The point of the matter is that whenever you go to a record store, such as an FYE or a CD warehouse, or a place that perhaps is in your area that's a little bit more independent, or at least on a lower scale level like that, the prices will be a little bit inflated only because that's basically the one and only way that that business is maintaining itself. Unless there is a bit of a corporate structure there where they are offering other products, whether they have used services that are offering them a bit higher of a profit margin, or if in general they're just able to offer some other good or service along with it. Basically, the way in which these companies are able to stay in business is because they're not focusing just on one thing. Let me repeat that. They're not focusing on just one thing. That's the problem. I remember a time frame in the early 1990s where if I wanted to go and get groceries, if I wanted to go and get prescriptions picked up, if I needed to get some music, if I needed to, I don't know, get some clothing, that's 4 things. I went to 4 different places. I didn't one-stop shop at Walmart or K-mart or places like that. That wasn't the way in which things happened. Music these days is being streamlined in these joints just like it were another product, because that's all that it really is. And that is another focus of this video. This video is telling you straight up that if you're buying your music from Walmart, if you're buying it from Target, if you're buying it from Kmart or places like that, you're not getting that individualized treatment. You're not talking to people who are experts about things like this. Now, is being an expert of music really all that important to you making a selection? Well, it probably isn't. But you know what? It should be. Because your experience could become magnified by that. Somebody who's an expert might be able to tell you some other artists or just give you some general conversation instead of just looking at you blankly while they're doing whatever it is they're doing. You know, someone to have an actual conversation with. Don't be afraid to have a conversation about music with somebody whenever you're in one of these stores. Take them off guard. That's what I love to do whenever I go into these big chains. I never buy anything there, but whenever I'm just in those sections, I like to take people just a little bit off guard because it just freaks them the fuck out. You know why I don't want to be paying for music on this computer? Because I'd rather have that physical selection, and I'd rather have a conversation with somebody. I'd rather talk with them about who their favorite artists are and who they really despise. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a meeting of the minds. Maybe we'll have some actual musical conversation. Maybe we'll actually, become friends. Maybe we'll be able to share different artists with one another and expand both of our musical universes. Or maybe, just maybe, like all of the stories that we've heard from bands in the past, maybe something will happen there where a project can happen. You never know. That's the best part about it. Don't be afraid to pay a couple of extra bucks for your music because of the environment. Because the environment that you're in is the one thing that these companies are able to operate and offer to you at basically no cost except for maybe an extra buck or two. And it's something that really enhances the overall experience. You're talking to human beings, you're not talking to robots. Now I understand, there are some situations where you go into these places and people might not have any fucking clue what you're talking about. And I understand your pain. It is kind of a rarefied air that my store does happen to have a heavy metal expert that also dabbles in indie rock, alternative rock, rap a little bit, country a little bit, because that's all that's fucking played sometimes, and basically just has a huge center in the world of music. It is also unfortunate for those said members that we don't have a country expert and we don't necessarily have a rap expert. Uh-oh. It happens, believe me. Because I'm sure in many of your areas you guys don't have a metal expert. I'm sure in many of your areas people wonder what the hell indie rock even is. I'm sure plenty of those areas happen to have a rap expert, happen to have an expert of country music. Either that or they have an expert that just knows everything that's going on in pop and basically could tell you Lady Gaga's phone number if you asked her. The environment does make a difference. There is a way in which you're able to kind of change the world as a music fan. You're able to talk with somebody else that shares your interest. I would hope so, because if they're just being hired there because of their looks, if they're being hired there just because they need a job, then they're not taking the job the right way. They're not taking it seriously enough. They're not understanding that this is something that is extremely important to society, because it is. Stand up and make your voice heard, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid to talk to somebody at a music store and see just how much they know. Maybe you are a better fit for these departments than they are. But I'll tell you one thing. Paying a couple extra bucks for music also keeps a unique dream alive. The unique dream that you can go into these individual establishments and have a conversation about the thing you love. That you can go into these establishments and get albums that you could never get at a large chain store because they would never ever think once about owning them. How many metal CDs do you see at Walmart? How many metal CDs do you see at Kmart? How many metal CDs do you see at Target? If companies like this are allowed to take over the world, the only way that you'll be able to get your music is through a label, and you'll be waiting a long period of time. That essence of being able to go down to a shop and have them have exactly what you're looking for, at least have an idea, that way they can order it for you. That way you have that interpersonal connection. It's upon us. It's a possibility, and it's scary. And I understand that a lot of you feel that ordering straight from the label is much more important anyhow, because there's a little bit more of a personal connection between you and the band. And hey, that's tremendous. That's great. I'm totally not flacking on the internet for this, because the internet has quite honestly made it easier than before for these artists to have their music reach you guys and have a little bit more of a personal relationship with their fans. But I guess what I am saying is well, paying a couple extra bucks for music is basically because these are places that are able to have the music in a larger volume, but not necessarily in a larger quantity. If you go into a store such as mine, or if you go into a store such as a CD warehouse or whatever it may be that's close to you, that isn't a big chain, you will notice one thing and one thing alone. You'll notice that the number of artists that they have there are massive. The number of artists will probably number in the thousands, perhaps even 10,000s, all depending on how large the store is that's near you. The number of artists that a Walmart or a superstore like that may carry, well, it may be in the thousands, but it's going to be thousands less, because they only focus on what's popular. Think about it this way. Think about your shopping experience as being in high school. You're roaming the halls and you notice that there are a couple of gatherings. There is a large gathering, a large clique, that you see perhaps on your left. That's Walmart. They're wearing the latest fashions. They're talking about the latest things on television, the latest things in music that happen to be everywhere on the radio. They're talking about the Rihannas, the Lady Gagas of the world. They're talking about the Lil Waynes, the Jason Aldeans. They're also watching all the popular shows on television, the Grey's Anatomies, and all that other fucked up shit. But then you notice, to your right, out of the corner of your eye, if you blinked you would have missed it, a smaller conglomeration. A bunch of kids in band t-shirts that are talking about artists' names that you've never heard of before, but some of them you do. And it isn't what's popular. You've never heard this on the radio. Some of these television shows, well, you've only caught little pieces of online. Either that, or you know that you have to sample them for yourselves because it's not what all the popular people watch. It's something that makes you different. It's something that makes you rogue. It's something that makes you an individual. Something that makes you, well, a lot more unique than they are. Now make that experience and give it a name. The clique is Walmart. The out crowd, there's your physical music shops. Which one do you want to be a part of? Which part do you really want to be a cog in the wheel of? Who would you rather associate yourselves with? People who just go with what's popular now, or people who don't care what's popular now and just do it because they love it? There you go. If this is the future of music, if digital sales are the reason why music dies in a physical sense, I will not blame downloading solely. Absolutely not. Because I know there are plenty of people out there that still buy. But those people who are buying, they may be buying in the wrong locations, or they may be going about it the incorrect way, at least in my opinion. Of course, as you know, this is all my opinion. But flat out, bar none, the best way to go is the way that involves the people who know the music. And that's how we're going to keep music alive. That's how, eventually, I hope that I, and many of you, because I'm sure you, and I know you've responded in the comments with your own tireless nights of restful thinking, or restless thinking, rather. Maybe we'll be able to sleep just a little bit better. Maybe we'll be able to pick up our instruments again and realize that not only will there be a crowd of people that will be willing to listen to us, but they'll also be willing to buy our records. And there will always be, hopefully, a use for those of us who review. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for once again listening to me regarding this matter. And I hope that, well, stuff like this doesn't die. Because I love this stuff. In fact, I'm going to listen to this right now.